ago, and I heard something that I haven't heard in like decades. An ice cream man. I didn't even know those things still existed.
Oh, they're creepy when they show up now.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was just so surprised that when I drove by, I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Those exist. Where am I?
Did a bunch of adults run up just to be nostalgic? There's no kid, because kids don't even like, what the fuck is that? Why is that truck making noise?
Yeah, I guess. Like I mean, it just kind of drove past. No one was running by it. I did think like, oh, maybe I should get some ice cream, but like I'm so lactose intolerant. The life is cruel. Now that I can finally afford it and like actually be able to do so with however much I want to, my body can't handle it. It's like the cruel irony of life.
Yeah.
So wherever you are, if you see ice cream, eat one for me. Pour one out for Caitie.
God, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw an ice cream truck, and it wasn't. I don't know if it's been 10 years, but it's been a minute.
Yeah, I it's still playing like that tune. I don't know, like da 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 da. Like it's the exact same thing. It like looked like it popped out from the 90s. It was amazing.
With the same speaker, right? Like.
Oh yeah, like I think it even kind of aged a bit because like some parts of the tune was like, ooh, that sounded a little.
Gets a little warbly.
Yeah, a little warbly. Poor bastard.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I think the last time I saw one like in a neighborhood, it was just so sad because it would just like, it would just kind of like sort of like saunter about, and like there's no kids running out. Like there's no way that people would do that anymore. I don't think people would let their kids run out there to an ice cream truck at this point.
Yeah, even when like I was a kid, Mom usually like I was allowed to go out of the house, but Mom would go like with me or at least stand in the yard. Like why I like went up to the truck, like she was watching the entire time. Like
yeah,
I don't know, like I don't really see any kid. Like we have kids in my neighborhood, I just never see them out and about, like unless their parents are nearby. So it's kind of weird. I don't know. This is a whole other story.
Well, I got a story for you now that I'm thinking about it.
All right. Go for it.
I'm trying to think of like the last time I saw an ice cream truck and sort of the fact that like, you know, it's really sad nobody wants to go. And I'm like, what about when I was a kid? What were ice cream trucks like? And yeah, it was totally that experience, right? Where you would fucking like ice cream and you would fucking go and ask your mom for money or whatever and you'd try and go get some ice cream. Well, I had a slightly different childhood. No, I had that experience, but from the one you described of like how I wasn't very closely watched over, to be honest. Mm-hmm. My parents did what they were pretty like strict and kind of tried to watch over, but like not that closely. Like me and my brother would walk out of the neighborhood to go to the gas station down the street and get Gatorades when we were like 8. You know what I mean? Like we walked around. And that means also, you know, you get stupid ideas. So,
oh, no.
I mean, what was it? Like maybe around, I was maybe like, yeah, I'll say I was maybe 8. My brother might have been 10. And it was the summer. And so ice cream was great and whatever. And we had water guns, Caitie.
Did you spray the poor ice?
No, we hated the ice cream lady eventually because the thing was, she would not accept pennies.
Wait, really?
She would not accept pennies, which when you think about it is actually a very reasonable stance from her standpoint, because fucking 7-year-olds have nothing but pennies, okay?
Yeah.
So we would try and come up and just like pay with a bunch of pennies, and eventually I guess she just got sick of it and she said, I don't accept pennies anymore. Uh-huh. And so for a couple of days in a row, we tried to buy ice cream with pennies and we were just incensed. Like we were infuriated. Like we were going to strike back against the man. And so we actually hatched a plan and everything to sort of like wave her down. Like we were ready to buy ice cream. And then like somebody would come pop out and like hand us all our water guns, like locked and ready to go. And we just totally doused her. Like, yeah, exactly. Like it was a drive-by. She was the one driving by, technically, but
no, you should have got one of those like little electric cars that like 8-year-olds had, and, like drive by.
No, and we totally got her. Like, I mean, her clothes were soaked. I mean, like we just totally. She was upset, right? Like she was just upset. She was like, "You go get your parents right this minute. Like I'm not gonna stand for this, whatever." And I guess it must have been the weekend, right? Because it just so happened that my mom and dad were both home, and so they both got brought out. And when the ice cream lady told all the parents, right, like this is what your kids have done, and this is so bad, and you know my parents were immediately kind of like, oh God, what have you done? And my mom was like, well, why did you do this? Like why did you do this? And we were very confident in our reasoning, like, well, because she doesn't accept pennies, Mom. Like this is a travesty. And my mom was like, no, absolutely no, that is not a good reason. And I'll never forget. My dad turns to the lady. He goes, "Do you really not take pennies?" And we totally like they the lady was just like, I'm fucking soaked, man. You're asking me if I take pennies? I'll admit, while we kind of got yelled at in front of the lady, we totally did not get in trouble. Like, we did not get our water guns taken. We were not grounded. Nothing.
Because that bitch don't take pennies.
She didn't take pennies, man.
Oh, God. Well, as much as I would love to continue to talk about not taking pennies.
That's my ice cream story for the year.
That is a very good ice cream story.
Thank you.
So, in an effort to save you pennies... Today we're going to be talking about different Dragon Age DLCs.
Oh god, I almost spit taked. Like you said that right as I took a drink of water, and I almost spit it out. That was the cheesiest, best segue ever.
It was. I didn't think we were going to be able to save that from ice cream, but you nailed it. Anyway, so when we're talking about the Dragon Age DLC today, I will completely admit, and I'm suddenly horrified because this was a request from Twitter, and I'm not going to be able to find that tweet again. So whoever you are on Twitter who suggested this idea, thank you very much. And I'm sorry I can't remember your name. But we're kind of be going over the different DLCs from all 3 Dragon Age games and kind of talk about like what we thought about it, if we think it's worth the money or not. We're going to try to keep this spoiler free. I think like if we get to a place where we need to talk about spoilers, then we just kind of save it for the end and then just like do it all. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
All right. That way it's not... Because I know sometimes people want to listen to our show and like still haven't played some of the part of the games. So should we just start with like the beginning, Dragon Age Origins?
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
All right. So I actually pulled up a thing listing all the DLCs. So one quick aside, kind of with all 3 games, Bioware tried to do some like promotional stuff. So there's like itty bitty DLCs that technically existed. Like, for Inquisition, if you bought a certain graphics card at a certain time, you would get a, like
translucent horse for
one.
one.
Translucent horse and all sorts of crazy stuff. And, like, different items and whatnot. At least for Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2, stuff like that is now given to you for free, so you don't really have to worry about. Inquisition, there's a couple of, like items like that are given to you from free, but like there are a couple things that aren't, but you can get those through mods. So sorry, console players, but just we're not going to talk about those because it's not like you can buy it now anyway. So I guess very beginning, Dragon Age Origins. So like the big one is Awakening, yeah.
Yes, I'd say that is probably the biggest one. I mean, the biggest one definitely in terms of size. It's the one true expansion for the.
Yeah. So I guess to like quickly sum it up, it's like a legitimate expansion. It has a whole bunch of new powers. It's set after the game. If you're something bad happens to your warden at the end of Origins, you can start a whole new character. You don't actually have to play Origins to play Awakening. Like it's very big. It's massive. It has its own story. I actually played it recently on live stream, and I think like taking 2 hours per episode, it was about, I don't know, 7 or 8 episodes. That's about 16 hours, I guess, to get through if you do everything. I might.
Oh wow!
So it's very large DLC. To the point where it's kind of like its own game. That being said, I don't know if I like it or not. I don't know how you feel about it. Like it's great if you like more, if you want to play more Dragon Age Origins. I think that's great, but I don't really like any of the companions. I don't like the story. Just like, quite frankly, in the lore, it's kind of like, oh, they bring out this big huge thing, and then they just kind of don't forget about it for the rest of the series so far. And I don't know. I usually just skip it, honestly, on like personal playthroughs, because it's really not that big of a deal, and I just kind of get annoyed with some of the companions. Like, there's only like 1 or 2 I really like, while the rest of them kind of like grate on me a little bit. So I don't know. What did you think?
I've always liked Awakening. I mean, I don't love it. I'm not like super huge on it or anything. I just kind of like the idea of, I mean, number one, I love it whenever a DLC or an expansion continues after the main quest. Mm-hmm. I like being able to see, even if it's brief, sort of like who you chose to rule for Eldon, etc. Mm-hmm. It introduces Anders.
But he's so different from like Dragon Age 2 Anders, though.
He is. I mean, it's been a while since I played Awakening. That's the problem. I mean, it is and it isn't, right? I kind of seem to remember his introduction scene. I don't know if this is too broad, but he's jokey, right? Anders is jokey in Awakenings. Mm-hmm. He's got Sir Pounce a lot, which I thought was just a fun touch.
Yeah. Which, did you know that can actually do something? Like, it's not just a little joke.
What does it do?
So, if Anders has to be alive, but if your whole party is dead and Anders isn't alive, you can use Sir Pouncelot to revive the other members of your party. Which is
Holy
huge.
Shit.
Yeah, it's kind of overpowered.
But, Sir Pouncelot is like serious.
Yeah, no, it's go get Sir Pouncelot. He's useful. But yeah, it's I don't know, like Anders is fine. It's just I don't know. Not I know actually a lot of people prefer him in Awakening than Dragon Age 2 because Dragon Age 2 can be kind of mopey.
Oh yeah.
And kind of Dragon Age 2 he does kind of get some like creepy weird moments, but like I don't know, like maybe some part of the problem is that you just granted like 16 hours or something like that sounds like a really long time to be in this DLC, but like you really don't spend that much time with your companions, so you really don't get to know them, so maybe that's why I'm not fond of them. Mm-hmm. Like Volana especially, like she has an interesting base story, but oh god, is she so grating. She just is so angry, and like you're not given enough time to like kind of break through the anger into like what's actually bothering her. And I think they try to do that, but it happens so quickly. It feels not substantial, I guess.
Yeah, the real problem with Volana is she kind of, at least this is how I feel about it personally, she's sort of with you under circumstances that don't, if I'm not mistaken, don't really require her to be with you. It's not like a Morrigan type of thing where like you really commit to sort of figuring out Morrigan because you kind of get the sense that she has to be with you. Mm-hmm. But Volana's like, why is this angry elf? Like, why are you even here? Yeah. Like, why are you here? I don't have to put up with you. And you're right, the time frame that she's with you is so short, you never really get to sort of get through that exterior layer of rage. Mm-hmm. And so she always grates. I mean, I like Sigrun, but again, I think all of them kind of suffer from the fact that there's not enough time. But like, okay, like Legion of the Dead, like, Dwarf Rogue, that's a cool character, at least on the surface. Mm-hmm.
I will say you bring up Volana and Morrigan. Volana is so not like I mean, this is kind of like, in Mass Effect when like a character died in Mass Effect 2 and then someone who was basically them but not really showed up in Mass Effect 3, that's who Volana is to Morrigan. It kind of felt like. Oh,
I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a not Morrigan, it's like, oh, this is who, like, if you liked Morrigan, you'll love her, except like they turned up like quite frankly, the bitchiness factor, where Morrigan, it was kind of fun, and Volana, it's just grating. So that's how I felt, at least.
Yeah, no, Morrigan she's shrewd, mm-hmm. somewhat like her mother. Like, she's sort of skeptical of things, and she, anytime, if you arrive at any sort of simplistic conclusions, she's quick to sort of jab holes in it, mm-hmm. which that is an engaging, sometimes frustrating, but ultimately fun character to deal with. Volana just throws a blanket of anger over anything. Like, that's not fun.
Yes, exactly. So I hated bringing her places because she would just get so angry about things, and it's so exhausting. Like, God.
I know you're not a fan of Oghren generally, and I think we both kind of agree that Oghren is very one note. They kind of try to figure out, I don't know, like repercussions of his demeanor in this one. Do you think that that's done well enough, or no?
I think it was a really good setup, and gosh. It kind of comes out of nowhere a little bit, but it in a way that, like, it's more surprising than, like, why did this happen? Like, his relationship with, I already forgot that woman's name or whatever. But, like, I actually like where that went. I just feel like the conclusion of it, like, didn't do much for me. Like, I wish there was a little bit more conversation between him and that woman whose name I cannot come out of my mind. But like I just again, it needed more time. It needed a little bit, like I think again, it just still suffers from the problem everyone else has. Where like there's an interesting base there. It's just it didn't have enough time to get really interesting. But I will say, at least with Ogren's, like I feel more sad about it than frustrated, like I do with Volana. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah, I liked, I don't know, I just kind of liked the, if I remember correctly, like the building up of the keep, sort of planning for some of the different some of the different battles, having to choose, I think, between staying with the keep and going to the city at the end. Like, there were just certain things that I really sort of relished that type of stuff, especially sort of once you build up the keep, then, like, do you have an attachment to it? I like the sequences where you're sort of choosing, you're sort of like presiding, like you're ruling and having to make decisions over shit that people bring to you, right? I fucking love that shit.
Not that often, though. It really only happens like once or twice, which kind of sucks.
I think so. Again, it's been a little while, and that's why I'm kind of like, I know you do that, but you're right. It's only like 2 different scenes where you do that, right?
Yeah, and then like there is some of it, like, you know, Dragon Age Origins era. They have like that like still picture at the end with like a little paragraph of like what happened. There's a couple of payoffs if you like choose right or wrong. They'll have like, oh, in this thing you chose, this is the consequence, and you're like, okay, that's kind of rewarding. At least there's that.
Yeah, I just like that. You know, it's interesting that it didn't immediately occur to me that there aren't that many of those. Maybe that's kind of a good thing, because I do imagine if it was all the time, it might kind of bog people down. I'm sure you could always ignore it, but you know, if you're not going out and doing action, you're just like being a little ruler.
I agree, but I think it still need to happen more than twice.
Yeah, like Inquisition. Like Inquisition, I think kind of takes something like that with the
the judgments.
With the judgments a little bit.
Yeah. I think Inquisition did the judgments better, honestly.
I just always like anything where you like hear both sides and have to make a decision.
That is fun, yeah. Okay, let's move on. So, the next big DLC. Well, that's obviously like the biggest DLC for Dragon Age Origins. I would say the next one would kind of be Witchhunt. That's the other big one.
Right.
And I would say, like, of all the Dragon Age Origins DLC we're going to talk about, this one I think is almost like necessary. At least for my version, I guess, of Dragon Age Origins, of like how I felt I played. Like, Witchhunt really is just confront Morrigan and get that conversation, and it, like, for me, that felt very, very rewarding. So I guess if you're someone who like really likes Morrigan or is really invested in character stories, this is completely necessary. You have to get it. That being said, like, the actual playability of the DLC, like, there's really not much. It's just like another level of Dragon Age Origins. There wasn't anything like super interesting in like the gameplay or whatnot. It was just more of that, but like you had that very rewarding conversation with Morrigan at the end.
It's basically like a dungeon crawl to get to the big conversation, but it is essential. Like, in my view, if I'm talking about the experience of Dragon Age Origin, and maybe someone who's never played it before, or they've played Origin, but for some reason they've never played Witchhunt, it's like immediately go out and play Witchhunt.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that you should have the experience of the Dragon Age saga without it. And even when you see, you know, Morrigan and Inquisition, there's still that connection, a little bit of sort of like what was said during that conversation and Witchhunt. So it's odd that it's short in many ways. It's not memorable, unfortunately. In a lot of other respects, it's basically like a dungeon crawl to get to that conversation, but I would say it's essential. You should not have the experience of Dragon Age Origins without that finishing touch.
I completely agree. Yeah, like, it's even if the DLC was just that conversation portion, I think I would still be happy with it, because like it's at least where I came off of when I first finished the game, that conversation really needed to happen, and I really liked it. Which it does kind of suck, like it's in a DLC, but especially how you buy Dragon Age Origins now, like it's generally most people just buy the Ultimate Edition because it's kind of the same price as with like deals and all. It's just so much cheaper buying that than anything else, and you get all the DLC anyway, so why not? But another DLC. So I guess like my 3 main DLCs for Origin is Awakening, Witchhunt, and then Stone Prisoner. After that, I really don't care about the other ones.
That is probably true. Can I say one quick other thing on Witchhunt that I always feel like my bros don't get any love here? I know nobody gives a fuck about Finn and what's her name, Ariane. Ariane.
I kind of liked them though.
I like them too. Like I can barely tell you anything about them. Like, I don't fucking... They're both young. That's kind of what I got from that. And for some reason, I just like the concept. And this is more in my own head than the actual material. I just like the idea that this is truly the end of the Origin story. If your Warden has gone through Origin and Awakening and everything else, this is the end of it. And he or she kind of, it feels like a journey sort of almost like to the end of the world to find Morrigan, and all your past companions, wherever they are, like they're gone. You left them to find Morrigan.
Minus your dog.
Yeah. And you just so happen to run across these two people who are clearly not in your league. Like, they wouldn't have helped you defeat the Darkspawn and the Archdemon and all that. Mm-hmm. You just happen to run across them, and for them, it's sort of like witnessing a legend kind of a thing. It's like it's their brief time getting to work with the legend. It's maybe the most exciting thing that's ever going to happen to them. They're going to tell their grandkids about, you know, when they were fighting alongside the hero of Ferelden and all this other stuff. And I always kind of cherish my short little time with Finn and Arianne, and I'm like, this is kind of like cool for them.
You know, now that you say that, I can honestly say I like Finn and Arianne more than any of the Awakening characters, and because they're just so charming, and like even like Finn's kind of quirky and weird, and Arianne, like there are moments where she gets kind of defensive about her Dalish culture, but like they're both so like.
They're endearing for some reason.
Yeah, because I think it is that, like, youth, they feel really young and youthful, and you really do feel like, you know, okay, guys, we got to go do this and do this thing, and they're, like, trying their best to help, and they are helpful.
Yeah.
And it really is kind of like you're the old adventurer, and, like, in the lore, they do go off and adventure after you leave. They kind of go off and do their own thing together.
That's right. Yeah, they team up.
So it kind of does feel like this is baby's first adventure, and I'm going to bring it through it, and then good luck, guys, and then they kind of inspire. It's really cute.
That's what we the last time we talked about Finn and Arianne, we were talking about potential old companions that might show up in Dragon Age 4. Yeah. How badass would it be if you run into them as, maybe they're not like companions or anything for your party, but you run into the pair of them and they've been a team now for like 10 plus years, and they're just like hardened and badass, and they're like, yeah, we fought with the hero for Ferelden once.
That would actually be super cool.
It would be really cool if that happened.
Oh, that would be good. So, okay, yeah, there we go. Now, moving on to Stone Prisoner. Stone Prisoner is actually... So there's two types of DLCs in Dragon Age Origins. There's one that is actually modifies Dragon Age Origins, and ones that are like new content, and like it doesn't really affect Origins that much. Awakening and Witchhunt are in the latter, and Stone Prisoner affects Origins. And it pretty much, like, there's a little bit of like a level to it or whatnot, and it's really just kind of whatever. But it adds Shale, the Golem, who is probably one of the best characters in Dragon Age Origins. I love Shale so much.
Right.
I don't really know what to say about, like, essentially this is a character add-on DLC. Like, I really like Shale, and I think this is the best character add-on DLC that in maybe Bioware history. I was
going to say the same. Neck and neck with Javik.
I was about to say Javik's the only contender for that. And, like, she just adds so much to the game, and it's particularly the level like in the deep roads, that she's a really good addition. She's hilarious, and she has really unique abilities because she's a golem. And I don't play without Shale now. Like, even though it is kind of out of the way to go get her, like, I get her every time because she's a blast. I love her so much. So
yeah, Shale it's one of those things where she's also kind of essential. And for a lot of people like myself, Shale never felt like DLC because I got the black case, whatever special edition one where it came with Shale. So I always had Shale. And it just kind of feels like it really wouldn't be Dragon. It's the same thing with Javik. Like, some of the other folks, DLC characters, like, I like Kasumi and I like Zaid and Mass Effect 2, but if you don't have them, to me as a hardcore fan, it would not feel the same. But I think if it was someone playing it for the first time, they would not be missing something truly essential to the experience. Whereas with Javik and Mass Effect 3 and Shale and Dragon Age Origins, I feel like you kind of have to have them.
Yeah.
Also, Shale is just funny as hell. It's just she's so great. So, some of the best lines, and just like the meme about pigeons and everything. I dig it.
Mm-hmm. Another like in-game DLC is the Return to Ostagar, and like I feel there's gonna be some people that really like that because like you essentially just you go back to Ostagar and see the ruins and kind of remember the good times. But like at least for me, I never felt like connected to the events at Ostagar, so just kind of like, all right. It was kind of neat though, walking around and having Wynn and Alistair kind of like talk about it, and like it almost kind of felt like a little mini therapy session with the two of them walking through there and like discussing things. And I hear with Logain it's very good too. But yeah, I don't know. I think unless if you don't feel very connected to Ostagar like kind of I was, I think it's very skippable, honestly.
Yeah, that's one where I certainly wouldn't mark it as essential. I think you, what do? You like take down Kaylin's body or something like that, or you
can. There's different options.
Yeah, I feel like doing that in some way was sort of, I don't know how to describe it. I guess that to me was the one significant, really story moment that I took from that. Right? It's like that was the King of Ferelden, right? Like it's just something. It's something there to sort of not let the body be desecrated, and it has some kind of duty to it, some kind of meaning. Other than that, I don't even say what the real takeaway is from it. Other than that,
yeah. So that's Return to Ostagar. I'm done with that one already. Okay. Next is Warden's Keep, and I think for me, Warden's Keep just speaks of missed opportunity. Because it tries to sell you that you get a new keep, but I just found it completely useless. Like apparently there is a storage chest, but I never really needed it, and it's always kind of out of the way to like go and get it. So it's like, I just don't care. I don't care about Warden's Keep. I guess it was fun, and like there's, I don't know, you can go through it and like help Levy and whatever, but like, I don't know. I really do that one rarely because it doesn't really do anything for me. I don't know.
I agree. I kind of feel like it goes on too long. You're just kind of slogging through enemies, and then you get this keep, and I'm like, I don't want to fucking live here. It's creepy, and a bunch of dead stuff was crawling around.
Yeah, and furthermore, it didn't even do anything interesting.
It's got one chest. It has one chest for storage, and that's it.
And like there's a blacksmith that you can make something cool once, and that's
it.
And then there's a shop, which like I don't even remember what's in the shop, but apparently it's not memorable. Like Bodan's like your shop man, right? You don't want to cheat on your Bodan, So, yeah, that's I don't know, it for me. Now there's also Feast Day Gifts and Pranks, and this one is like I use it all the time, but I feel like if for some reason you didn't buy the Ultimate Edition, don't waste your money on it. Like but basically literally all it does is it adds items to Bodan's shop that give extra approval or disapproval to your companions. So I guess it is helpful, like if you're having some problem with approval. But that's really it. There are some items that do some interesting things, like the one for Sten, like the Canary Prayer Book. Like it kind of acts like a Sir Pouncelot, where you can have Sten read it, your whole party's revived. And there's a couple other like kind of fun, interesting things, but it's just kind of like it kind of breaks the game a little bit, Like it stops making like character relationship challenging, and like it kind of adds some like OP powers or weapons to the game. So it's kind of like.
Yeah, I would actually go so far as to say like this is my only one that I would say like a hard skip. Like I don't think I ever used any of the items until like multiple playthroughs later, and I was just like, I don't even see what the point of this is. You're right, the prayer book thing. I think I actually knew about that slightly before you did, and I remember when you discovered it on stream. That was a great moment because no one would have guessed that book was actually useful.
Yeah, there's actually as you said on stream, you can see me reacting to it the first time because I had no idea about it because like I don't really touch those. They're just kind of there. I don't really use it. So yeah, that's I don't know if I would say it's a hard skip, but I think it's definitely like use it when you're on your like 100th playthrough and you just don't want to have to fuck with you don't want to even think about the companion approval. Just throw the companion approval and be on your way. That's when I say you mess with it. Speaking of DLC not to fuck with, Darkspawn Chronicles.
Oh, dark. Are we gonna skip right over Tale of Orzammar? Or are we getting to that later?
We'll get to that later because that's that's a whole other thing. Anyway, it's Darkspawn Chronicles. Darkspawn Chronicles is you play as a Darkspawn, in an alternate reality where the warden failed the joining and Alistair has to try to defeat the blight, and he ends up losing because that's, or depending on your choices, I guess, he ends up losing the blight and you kill him. If you really like the fighting style in Dragon Age Origins, then it's just like you play the Battle of Denerim again, but this time as a Darkspawn. You get to kind of control Darkspawn, but I don't know. I guess it was fine if you really just in it for the game mechanic, but if you're in anything for like story or characters or whatever, it's kind of a slog. So
I think I played Darkspawn Chronicles once.
I played it twice.
Only once, yeah.
Once on stream and once, when I bought it. Well, I guess when I bought the whole thing because I got the Ultimate Edition, but like it was kind of like, oh, I'll forget about this. Never mind. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one sort of thing is like you just don't see that very much in RPGs, like an alternate reality, play the enemy conceptually. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, I guess. But you're right. When you actually play it, it's just a big battle with Darkspawn.
Yeah, which I will say, if you want to play it to find out what the alternate reality is, the alternate reality is pretty much told through codex entries. So if you don't want to play it, just look up the codex entries. Like that's really fine. Like there's really nothing new to experience versus just reading the thing on the internet. Now you mentioned Tale of Orzammar, so let's talk about that. That's from I guess I don't know for certain, but what I've heard is that's not technically official DLC. That's something a little bit different. So A Tale of Orzammar, if you haven't heard about it, don't worry. It's not actually included in the Ultimate Edition because it was a free DLC. And the story that I got from it was actually made by PC Gamer through the Dragon Age Origins toolset to kind of like highlight how much stuff you could do with the Dragon Age Origins toolset. So it's, from what I heard, it's not technically made by Bioware, but it's like they helped build it, and there's like, some... It does kind of fit into the story of the Dwarf Noble origin, but it's like canonness is questionable or whatever. And let's pretend it is canon. It doesn't really add that much. It's just like makes Balin look even more like an asshole, which like is kind of hard to do. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It is kind of weird because like there's no voices behind it. Like you have to read everything. So it kind of feels lonely a little bit, I thought.
It's a little quiet. It's a little on the quiet end.
Yeah. So I guess like if the Dwarf Noble origin is your canon origin, then maybe play it through once just to get the experience. But after that, I'm okay.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there, right? Like if you're real big on Dwarf Noble, then that, even if it's not official canon, you might just like the coloring in, head canon, whatever, however you want to treat it.
Yeah.
I've never played it. I have never actually played it. I saw you stream it, and I was like, yeah, this is interesting. But no, I've actually never personally played this one. It's the only thing I think on the list that I've not experienced, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything because, like you said, it's not official DLC.
You're really not. I for those who are wondering how to get it, though, just look on the Dragon Age Wiki, and they have a link where you can download it. You can download it for free. It's not like pirating or anything. It's just, it was free once, it's still free. So there it is. I think we only got two more, Liliana's Song and Golems of Amgarok. Since we're going on things not to fuck with, let's do Golems of Amgarok. Golems of Amgarok is, again, just another dungeon crawler. And, like, it has some interesting game mechanics in, like, the shifting of, I'm going to say dimensions. I don't even know if there's a lore explanation for that, to be honest. But like,
yeah,
there's not like a huge story on it. It's just kind of there, and it's more stuff to play with your warden, or a warden, because it's kind of like Awakening, where you don't have to import. You can just play it new. But yeah, it's there, I guess.
I don't like it. I think it's maybe my least favorite DLC. I think it's between this and Darkspawn Chronicles. It's a slog. It's too long. There's weird difficulty spikes. I don't like the companions as far as their abilities or their personalities. I don't give a fuck about either of these brothers.
Here, I'll say it. Do they have personalities? I don't know.
No, I don't know.
One's kind of crazy, and one's like, I'm concerned brother man. Hello, it's... That's the new right. Hello, I am the warden, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. That is literally all it is. And the whole time I'm going like, wait, so I'm the warden commander? Like, I've been called here? why? Because you fucked this up? Like, what does this have to do with the fate of the world? What does this have to do with...
Well, apparently, it happened, I guess, in the series of events. Origin happens, Awakening happens, and then Golems of Angarok. So it's kind of in, like, the timeline of the Wardens, like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm bored. The guy the concerned brother is named Jarek Dace. And Jarek Dace is just like, hey, you went to the Deep Roads once. I need your help. And the warden probably got the letter. Like, I don't know,
what the hell?
Or something. Like, dude, that'd be fucking awesome.
After this, Warden's just like, God, I guess I should go look for Morrigan now. What else am I doing?
Yeah. I've done everything. I don't do with my life.
Yeah.
Now, there's also Liliana's Song, which is a prequel to Origins. And, like, if you are ride or die Liliana, this is probably essential for you, because it essentially tells her story, which... funny enough, isn't really congruent to what she tells you in Origins, so I don't know what they were doing there. I don't know which one to believe, I guess, but it's all right. I'm just not... I think it's interesting that for when you play the Wardens the entire time, or a player character, for the most part, like, when you pick an option, like, nothing is said, but in Liliana's Song, because Liliana has a voice, if you pick an option, she'll actually say it. Which I thought was kind of fun. I think that was them playing around with voice protagonists and stuff like that. So I guess if that sounds interesting, go for it. It was all right. I don't hate it. It's just kind of, I don't know. I'm not like a huge Liliana fan. I don't hate her. It's just like she's there. So that's how I guess felt at the DLC.
What year did that come out? Like 2010?
2010, yeah.
I just feel like it's got a real weird, like, heist movie aesthetic, and that's kind of what I shouldn't say weird. I mean, that's what they're going for, right? It's like pulling off heists and whatnot, but it just feels so out of place with the general tone of Dragon Age that I could never quite settle into it. It's sort of got, like, this weird, like, mid to late 2000s, like Ocean's 11, Lucky Number 11, kind of like, if you remember movies from that era, plus whatever, like, metal dark fantasy thing that Dragon Age Origins had going on, and it just, like, the intros for the characters, I could never get over that. I was like, this just feels so out of place.
Oh, I forgot about that, where it has, like, every time a new character is introduced, like, there's, like, a freeze frame and, like, a splash screen of, like, this is Liliana,
like blood splash in their name, and it's like cool and upbeat but also still bloody, and I'm like, I don't know if these two things will go together.
I'll say this, I'm glad Dragon Age dropped that bloody aesthetic for Inquisition, because it just wasn't working for me.
Yeah, no.
Oh, God. Well, I guess that's all the Dragon Age Origins DLC, yeah? Other than, like, the promotional stuff you get for free, which are just items, and that's another story.
Yeah, all I'll say about Blood Dragon armor is, God, what a legacy, right? Because I think they had special armor for that in Dead Space and Mass Effect multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I know people are wanting it for Anthem and stuff, because it's just, like, the one iconic Dragon Age thing that they have, even though, like, they don't use it that often, because, like...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2 has both less DLC and also probably the most DLC, which is
yes.
confusing.
Yes.
To, I guess, explain that a little bit, Dragon Age 2 had so many item pack DLCs. I think there is technically 6 different ones. There's 2 mage, 2 rogue, and 2 warrior, and then there's 2 packs that have, like, 3 of those. Like, there's Mage Pack 1, Mage Pack 2, Mage Pack 1, Mage Pack 2, and it does the same thing with rogue and warrior. And then you could buy the packs number 1 and packs number 2. So, like, the buying's a little bit confusing. So you can end up buying, like, the same thing twice, which is shitty. So now I actually didn't have these originally, and a very nice person on my Patreon donated money specifically say, I want you to buy these. So I was like, okay. So I did. Which, like, that didn't happen that long ago, and I still think it was like, I got it on sale, and I still think it was like $3 or $4 for, per pack, which there's 2 main packs you can buy to get everything. Which it's like the all item pack 1 and all item pack 2. I can't remember the specific name of it. Now having played with the items and really, I guess, looked at them, it does add, like, a whole bunch of stuff to your game, but they're kind of overpowered a little bit. Now the item models are really cool. so if you really like a look of the armor or the weapons or whatever, like that's one thing. But like I was never like a huge fan of any of them, so like unless you really want a specific armor, I don't think it's worth it because it really does break your game. You are overpowered from day one.
Yeah, yeah,
or
for
level
sure.
7, I think, for some of them. But like it's, yeah, I guess I would say completely unnecessary. Don't bother with it unless you really like a certain armor. That's about it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever bought any of those. I think I had some of the ones for the DLC that came with like the signature edition, and then I don't know, I can't remember. Yeah, like a lot of those. There's just so many of them that I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
Yeah. There's also the free DLC Black Emporium, which like it's free, so why not get it? I think it's completely necessary too because you can edit your face, which is so important.
I agree.
It also adds like a lot of little items that are just really good to have, like some you can buy boots and gloves that like make it look like you're not wearing boots and gloves, which is kind of fun sometimes depending on like what armor you're wearing. It sells a way to like redo all of your points and abilities. If you don't like what you did, you can change it. So like it's just like the Black Emporium in both this and the Dragon Age Inquisition game is just a huge quality of life thing. So I definitely get it. It's completely necessary. And then I guess going on, which I don't, do you agree with me or?
Black Emporium is essential, and it's really the tricky thing is what is it's not going to be the Black Emporium in Dragon Age 4, right? But they've got to have something like the Black Emporium.
Here's the thing, though. They set up, and I actually think it was Dragon Age 2, might have been Dragon Age Inquisition, the Black Emporium. Have you ever seen Howl's Moving Castle, I should say?
Oh, so, that's right.
Yeah, the Black Emporium kind of has some magical door things going on, and you can enter it in like a whole bunch of different places. And apparently, there is one kind of near the Devinter Imperium. So I think we will be able to get Black Emporium in other games.
It's a staple. It's now it's the one constant in the Dragon Age universe.
So I think it's going to return. Also, Xenon the Antiquarian or whatever is how you pronounce that. He's great. I love him.
Yes.
He's the best. I guess moving on to Exiled Prince, Sebastian.
The best piece of DLC in the history of Dragon Age.
Oh, come on. I don't hate Sebastian. I just think the DLC is shoehorned in. I really do.
It's one of the, I mean, technically you're right. Like the more I think about it, he is kind of tacked on, but it's another one of those ones that I always play the game with Sebastian, and so because it was part of the pseudo special edition that they had, and so to me it feels normal, and I like Sebastian. I like his voice actor, and I like his armor, and that's about as much as reason as I need to like him. And I never tried to romance him, so I never ran into the problem that everyone else runs into.
Yeah.
And probably I'd never he wasn't with me in that. Well, I don't know. The whole thing with make or no doesn't bother me as much, except for when people started to meme it, and then I realized, yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, make or no.
And then everyone else is just like, all right, so back to the conversation.
Yeah, so I'm trying to do this without spoilers, which I'll be honest, I think we've been doing a great job, but trying. I didn't like any of the quests that it added in because it's really just his personal quests, which I thought was kind of boring. You can't even recruit him until Act 2, which by that point you're like, why can't I? Like, I don't know why they didn't do anything for Act 1. There's also like the romance. It's a romance in name only, and I feel like the reason. Because there's no, like, really romantic scenes. You don't kiss him. You don't even hug the damn dude. You know? Like, it's kind of ridiculous. And, like, I think it's just because I didn't have time to animate something special. And it really feels like that's the problem entirely with Sebastian, is that he just is kind of there minus, like, a few scenes here and there. I think it's kind of interesting to have him in the dynamic of the Hawk Party, because he adds something new to the dynamic of, like, you know, kind of being very religious and very sincere, while all the other, like, people in the group have some sort of huge trauma and are just trying to survive, and Sebastian's, like, kind of this enlightened figure, or he tries to be. I find that interesting, and there are some interesting dynamics of, like, him and Fenris, where he's, like, really trying to reach a hand towards Fenris and help him out with his trauma. Like, he seems like a genuinely nice dude. So I guess I like him in that regard. I guess I just I guess I would suggest you should get the Exiled Prince, so then you can feel everyone's frustration that this DLC wasn't well implemented.
Okay, so with Sebastian and the romance thing, Vivienne and Samara and Lexi, various characters throughout Mass Effect and Dragon Age, won't romance you either, and they have reasons for not romancing you. And I feel like we accept all of those reasons more than we accept Sebastian's. Now, granted,
well, hold on. Sebastian does want to romance you.
Yes, so that was my thing. It's like Vivienne and Lexi tell you up front, hey, nothing's happening here. I'm not looking, I'm not interested, etc. Samara is probably the best comparison in that there's sort of an expression from her that she also wants to be involved, but she can't because of her vows as a Justicar. And I feel like people accept Samara a lot more than Sebastian, and I agree with that. But why? What is it about Samara that makes more sense than Sebastian?
For me, at least, I think for me at least, it's because how the DLC just felt very rushed in general. That like when he says that I can't do this in full or whatever. To me, I'm not hearing he has a vow. I'm hearing this is rushed. So I feel frustration that like, oh, this probably could have been a thing you wanted, but it's not because they just didn't have enough time to build it. So I guess, unlike Samara, who's, like, naturally in the game, and, like, she has this really interesting storyline with her daughter, like, she has other things about her, and so when she says, well, I have this vow and I'm doing all these things, you're like, all right, cool, I understand that. With Sebastian, like, I'm already kind of frustrated with how this guy's going, because, like, I couldn't recruit him until Act 2. His, like, story is kind of like, okay, I guess. And, like, when you try to romance him, he, like, gives this bullshit excuse, which, of his duty or whatever, and you're just like, well, hold on, this whole DLC has felt like a bullshit excuse, so, like, I'm just like, fine, all right, I guess I should have expected that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember now, like, yeah, you can't romance, like, Kasumi or Zaid. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of DLC characters that had a romance, and Sebastian is quote-unquote the only one, right?
To my knowledge, yeah.
But not really. So I guess maybe that's just a thing. Yeah. Right, they don't have time to flesh it out properly, and that's probably why they stayed away from it since then.
Yeah. Which I think they should continue to do. I guess moving on, Mark of the Assassin. I know people have very positive reactions to this, so I want to begin the statement with some people really like this DLC a lot. I think it adds a lot of interesting mechanics. There's a whole new sneaking level that I thought was like kind of fun, but also kind of clunky because it's very obviously the first time they did it. But I hated it. I hated every moment of it.
Oh.
I hated doing it, and I just cringed the entire time because it just reeks of that like 2011 quirky culture, which like maybe I'm just cringing about my past self. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm projecting myself in this game, but it just hurt me so bad. And some of the quote unquote humor, I wanted to die, Jordan. I wanted to die. I vividly remember playing this for the first time, like very late at night. And I remember my husband was actually in bed and I was playing this, and I just sat there going, oh, no, I hate this the entire time. I was so miserable, but I wanted to play it because I wanted to know what happened. And I thought maybe it would get better. It doesn't get better. And Talus really just feels like Felicia Day. Talus is Felicia. There's no such thing as Talus. It is Felicia Day in Dragon Age.
Right, 100%. So I would have been there with you for a long time. We talked about this on a much older episode about how I boycotted it. Mm-hmm. Like I only played it like very recently, a couple years ago, a year ago, something like that. Somewhere around the time where I was starting the Exalted March channel was the first time I ever played it. Mm-hmm. And I boycotted it because I didn't like the idea that Felicia Day just kind of seemed like she was an Uber fan that got to make a piece of major DLC. And at the time,
which is kind of true.
It's 100% true.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. And at the time, that just struck me as like, what the hell? Like, at the time, she was doing the one MMO show.
The Guilds.
The Guild. And it's very popular. And you're right. It was like very 2011. Like, that was the culture, right? It was a super quirky, funny nerd show about an MMO. And I think that the Guild had moments of being okay. I watched a few episodes and I go, God, this is just, it's pandering of the highest order. It's, what's that one popular show on CBS?
Big Bang Theory?
Big Bang Theory before the Big Bang
Yeah.
Theory, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's the lowest common denominator, quote unquote, nerd culture stuff you can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the short films that she made, like the web series that she made that sort of laid into Mark of the Assassin.
Oh, Dragon Age Redemption, which is no longer on YouTube unless you look it up illegally because Machinima went down. But fun facts.
I thought that was terrible. Like, all due respect to everybody involved in that, I thought it was god awful.
Now, I will say this, because this is what I said in my review. It isn't good, but they really tried hard, and so I found it a bit endearing that they tried.
Okay, yeah.
So I didn't like it, but I found it endearing. And here's the thing: there's so many like terrible media tie-ins for Dragon Age that are easily cash grabs. This one was really, they just had a passion project for it. It wasn't good, but they tried, and I respect that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a really good way to put it. They ran into some weird stuff like, look, here's the budget you have, and you want Kunari.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how good are you going to be able to make Kunari look with the budget you have? Not good. It's going to look like a bad Halloween costume.
Yeah.
But you try.
Don't forget the magic, which is like, ooh, those are some graphics.
So all of that combined, I never wanted to play Mark of the Assassin. I thought it was going to be crap. And then when I finally played it, I didn't hate it. I thought, yeah, some of the humor wasn't aging well, but I thought that the attempts at stealth were okay. It was different. I kind of liked the well, I'm trying to talk about it without getting into spoilers. You get a different look at the Qun, sort of, right?
Yeah.
Like from a different perspective. And I thought that was like, huh, like, okay, I kind of once again understand Kunari culture in a way better. Mm-hmm. For some reason, I don't know if it was just the mods that I had installed on there. To me, it looked like the graphics somehow looked much better, and I felt like some of the environments were a little bit more open, and that was sort of like a very early precursor to the move into the more open environments of Inquisition. Obviously, overall, I give it like an okay, like a half enthusiastic thumbs up.
I would, despite everything I said, I would actually agree with you. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad DLC, but like the stuff that annoyed me really annoyed me. Like Talus and all the humor, I just wanted to bang my head against the wall. But like the act of playing it was enjoyable, and there was a little bit of a twist where you're like, okay, I guess. That makes sense. But it's, I wasn't, I don't know. I don't really play it ever again, but some people are going to like it, and I think you just don't know what side you're going to be on until you really play it. So I guess I would suggest playing it at least once. Yeah. Yeah. So, or unless you like really, which I think we talked about this. You really didn't like Felicia Day. I actually do like Felicia Day, but we have completely opposite opinions on this.
So, yeah. and I'm sure Felicia Day is a very nice person. So I was going to say that.
I guess moving on for Dragon Age 2 Legacy. Legacy, I think, is the only Dragon Age 2 DLC which I would say you need to get it. Because I think it has a really good tie-in with the family, and then, like, it is a huge impact on Inquisition. So, like... and I actually liked it. It had, like, some interesting puzzles, and, like, there's, like, the whole point of, like, building an item that you get to use for the rest of the game I thought was really cool. So, I really liked Legacy. I liked that one a lot.
Legacy is the other one that I agree with you. It's essential, right? I think it's an essential part of the Dragon Age 2 experience. You don't fully understand the experience of Hawke and their sibling and their family in general unless you understand what happens in Legacy. And then also it obviously sort of for the series has major implications, which to me it's very much in the vein of Arrival in Mass Effect 2. You can clearly tell, like, both Mass Effect 2 and Dragon Age 2 were of a time for Bioware where they were clearly trying to do the same thing for Inquisition and Mass Effect 3.
Yeah. I would even say that Legacy is so essential to Dragon Age 2 that if you don't play it, Inquisition doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because Varric so clearly talks about the events of the Legacy that if you don't know what he's talking about, you get confused. So which sucks that this DLC is so essential. I so far I would say, if you can only buy one DLC for each game, for Origins it would be Witchhunt, for Dragon Age 2 it would be Legacy.
Okay, well, yes, but I don't want to skip ahead here, but
That's
whenever Dragon Age 4 comes out, you're going to have to play Trespasser even more so than Legacy, right?
Well, I said one per game, I guess was my
Okay.
point there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think overall, like if you can only ever play one DLC for the whole series, definitely Trespasser, totally.
Yeah, but I agree with Legacy. It's like the connective piece that it absolutely needs into Inquisition.
Yeah, which here's the thing. Unlike Trespasser, where I felt like, oh, maybe this should kind of been in the main game, Legacy kind of, I don't know. Like, I'm okay with that being a DLC, although I am annoyed that it is so essential. Like, it really kind of felt like an extra adventure. It didn't feel like it fits snugly within the narrative of Dragon Age 2. Whereas Trespasser so obviously fits very well within the game.
Yes, especially because Trespasser has a place within the plot. It's after.
Yeah.
And Legacy is kind of like, you can play it whenever.
Yeah, if anything, it's kind of almost connecting, which not quite, because the events of Dragon Age 2 are very big in Thedas, but it feels like it's more connecting. Dragon Age 2 really does kind of feel like the redheaded stepchild of the series, and Legacy kind of connects it back within the main series, I felt.
Yes. I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, anything else in Dragon Age 2 DLC?
No, just that comment that you made about Dragon Age 2 is really, really true. And I think overall, I feel like Dragon Age is really a trilogy that is going to come to an end with Dragon Age 4, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that DA2 was like, in order to set up the middle of the trilogy, which is actually Inquisition, they took a detour to give us great exposition on what actually would have ended up being backstory, which is the start of the Mage Templar Rebellion in Kirkwall.
Yeah.
But that also Legacy is the part of it that connects it into the more cosmic sort of like gods and ancient magic and all that stuff. That's the part of it that connects it in that sense. So yeah, it's essential.
Yeah. So I guess moving on to Inquisition. Inquisition, I think, had maybe the least amount of DLC, if I'm counting right, but I think they had the most solid DLC. There's not a DLC from this lineup that I hated. I usually hate item packs, I'll say that, but I really liked the so there's two. I guess if you got the promotional, what is it, like Flames of the Inquisition, and it adds like a couple things, like I guess you could get that. Well, let's talk about that real quick. That DLC that was like, if you buy it in advance, and now you have to like buy the special edition to get it or something. Like, I mean, it's fine. I wouldn't write home about like the Flames of the Inquisition like armor or anything.
Yeah, no, it's like one of those ones where the first time you're like, oh, this is cool armor, but then you get it all the time, and you're like, I don't want to use this armor again.
Yeah, because like I have one, in my lineup of Inquisitors, I have one Inquisitor that used that armor, and then after that, I'm like, all right, I'm done with that. It's fine though. I mean, I guess I'm saying with this one, it's totally skippable, and don't feel bad unless you just want all of the armor. But it's not that. It's an item pack. What do you want? But I will say Spoils of the Avar and Spoils of the Canary, which are two item packs. I really liked both of like the armor and like the Skyhold add-ons that those two add. So like when it actually came out, I bought it, and I hate item packs. So I guess as far as item packs go, like granted it's like, microtransactions and whatnot, but like I didn't hate it for what it was. Unlike the Dragon Age 2 DLC, which I don't like them at all, I think this did microtransactions well.
Much better than DA2, and I agree. Like Spoilers of the Qunari, I think was kind of necessary because there's so little Qunari armor that fits. That was kind of more like a fix that needed to happen. And then Spoils of the Avar, like it does nothing for me except for like maybe if you want to do it for a roleplay purpose while you're in some Avar territory.
Mm-hmm. See, I would say for Spoils of the Avar, what I really enjoyed there was the Skyhold decoration stuff, because like my favorite window thing is like the moons from the Avar thing. So like I love honestly, I bought that pack because I just love that window so much, which is, I'm sorry, but
you're not wrong. Okay, yeah, you're not wrong. That's true.
Yeah, so I guess that's why I liked it. So I'm just gonna skip over those because it's really like if you like the content in there, like you're like the armor or something Skyhold, then get it. Like if you don't like any of it, then it's not really worth it. It doesn't add story or anything.
Yeah.
Black Emporium, same deal. It just does a lot of life fixes, and it's really great to fix your face and whatnot. And then, which I will also say, the shop is a great, it has a shop where you can get a lot of common materials. That's so nice when you want to stop collecting
Definitely
common materials. So I liked that. But now the actual DLC. Well, I guess to start by release date, Jaws of Hakon is the first one, and it's definitely not. Well, I guess both Descent and Jaws of Hakon are kind of like just kind of there for the story. But I actually really like Jaws of Hakon. Like the main story and like finding the old Inquisitor is like really cool, and I think like the initial setup, you're just like, oh, okay, I guess this is interesting. But like the payoff at the end and like the twists, you're like, oh, it like makes it a lot more interesting. And I liked that. I think that for what it promised to be, it ended up being a lot better than that.
Yeah, I also liked it. I was gonna sort of mention when I was saying like the role play aspect of like the item pack for the Avar. Like you get to learn more about their culture in a way that I felt like the main game kind of did, but not quite. And you kind of understand a little bit more about that. I enjoyed, and then yeah, the reveal of Ameridan is like, okay, yeah, this feels appropriately badass. I want to say it came out. Well, no, it must have certainly come out after, but Skyrim also has kind of a similar trope, in that they have a piece of DLC where you find the last Dragonborn.
Oh yeah, though that definitely came after that, but
and I do remember kind of in the moment going like, huh, it's kind of Skyrim like, but but the actual plot of those are very different when you actually play both of those. So no, I do like Hakon as well.
I would say, like, for Dragon Age Inquisition's DLCs, because I think they're also one of the more expensive ones in the series, unless you get it on sale. But, like, if you can only buy one Trespasser, and then I guess I would still choose Descent over Jaws of Hakon, but, like, I feel like it's not because I don't like Jaws of Hakon, it's just that I think those other two add something a lot more. But I still really liked it, yeah. Which I guess moving on to the Descent DLC... one thing I really liked about the Descent DLC, you get so rich very quickly.
It's true.
I appreciate that. So I guess if you're struggling with money, get that Descent DLC. You will be rolling in it. But Descent DLC really is a dungeon crawler with an interesting world setup. I guess that doesn't make any sense, I think, but the story and kind of like the lore reveals behind it are really interesting and like groundbreaking, to the point where like there's even a line of Trespasser that will reference the Descent DLC if you've played it, which is kind of interesting. So I feel like while Trespasser is definitely needed to move on to Dragon Age 4, I think the Descent's actually pretty up there too.
I really like the Descent, and it's interesting because I don't like dungeon crawls as much as like say I used to. I don't think I enjoy playing it as much as I just enjoy the fact that it's really well designed. As far as a piece of DLC, as far as dungeon crawls go, it is very competently designed. The whole part about getting rich, that is very appropriate for a good dungeon crawl. You get you get very good gear, you get very good building materials, you get money. Yep. And if something is hard, like that's the perfect way to make it feel like it was actually worth it and not just pointless grinding. As far as story, you're right. Like the reveals behind like the sort of the deep lore, it is significant and it's important, and it really makes you feel like you know what's going on. Like you know something. I mean, maybe some players don't if they haven't played the DLC, but it's also not like you're missing out on something super crucial if you don't play it. At least not yet. We'll see how it plays out in future games. But like for all of those reasons, I just feel like it's a really good piece of DLC. It's really what DLC should be. Even though personally, because I don't enjoy like the long dungeon crawls as much anymore, I don't personally get as much out of it. I think it's a damn good piece of DLC.
I will also say, kind of like how we talked about Ariane and Finn, like, Volta and Ren are great. I loved them. They were great little... They're not really true companions as much as, like, Ariane and Finn were, but, like, they travel with you for most of the time, and you really feel for them, Like, they have a real, like, interesting relationship, and, like, it's yeah, with stuff that happens near the end, you really feel for the characters, and I want to see more of them going on. You know, I liked them a lot, which is, you know, a lot to say, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say Volta in particular sort of anchors you in to the lore stuff and the sort of quote unquote twists at the end, makes it more personal, and so that's really key.
Can I, before I say this, she's voiced by same person as Liara and Scout Harding, isn't she?
Ali Hillis, yeah.
Yeah, my God, that woman has a range, because she sounds so different from
She's incredible, yeah.
From Scout Harding. I will say that I think there's maybe a little bit of Liara in Volta, but like not enough to really be noticeable to me, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow, it like great voice acting job for Volta. Now I guess finale is Trespasser.
Just a small little piece of DLC that they threw out there. Nothing.
Yeah, it's not that big. No, Trespasser is huge. It is probably the best DLC in the whole lineup, I would say. If you can only buy one DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition, it's Trespasser. If you can only buy one DLC for the entire series, it's Trespasser.
Mm-hmm.
It actually affects Inquisition, so like it actually changes like your skill trees to something like to the point of like I can't imagine not having those add-ons to the skill tree anymore, you know. It wraps up all of your companions really nicely. It wraps up your story for your Inquisitor very nicely, unless you're Sylvain, that's a whole nother story. But it's the perfect transition. Like I think that's I almost said the perfect DLC. At the same time, I think it's the perfect end to Inquisition and maybe the end we deserved, and therefore maybe should be DLC. But
yeah,
maybe I'll retract that statement saying it's the perfect end to Inquisition. But I love it and I always play it. It's the only DLC I will play without fail because it's the end of the game. It really is. It's the true end of Inquisition, unlike any of the other games or DLCs. So I can't imagine playing Inquisition and then not playing Trespasser because I just feel like the story's unfinished without it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's almost it's almost hurt by the fact that it's so good for exactly the reason what you said. It almost feels like it's so good it should have been the ending of Inquisition. But I say it's right up there for me with maybe the best DLC Bioware has ever done. I really, really, really like the Citadel DLC in Mass Effect 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really, really like Lair of the Shadow Broker in Mass Effect 2. But I think those are all up there. And I think within Dragon Age specifically, Trespasser is it. It's monumental in how it affects the story. I guess in many ways, like the real final piece that we need to judge it as a DLC is the next game. Because with Legacy, we know how it functions as a transition because we now have gotten to where transition to. Whereas with Trespasser, we're like, okay, they're setting things up in Trespasser. So like how well does that setup then dovetail into 4, which we don't know yet.
That's true. That's actually really interesting because like it's entirely possible that Dragon Age 4 comes out and makes Trespasser kind of weird and not make any sense.
Yep. Yeah.
And therefore it would not have aged well. So I guess to say this, in a point where Dragon Age 4 hasn't come out, Trespasser is perfect and we all love it. So I would say that if anything happens to Dragon Age 4 that makes Trespasser seem weird and odd, that is Dragon Age 4's fault and not Trespasser.
Yeah. Well, it's like, so Trespasser does two things, right? It sort of serves as an ending for some stuff, like with Inquisition, for which it does do very, very well. I mean, it just absolutely, no matter what happens in 4, it will always serve as a pretty good ending for some stuff in 4 and in Inquisition. But the other half of it is how well does it transition into Dragon Age 4, and we won't know that until it comes out.
Yeah, and that's a really big part of it. But I guess like how it is right now, I think it does an awesome job, and I love it. So yeah, I honestly, I'm trying to think of like a bad thing to say about Trespasser, and I think it's there's like one clunky mechanic kind of at the end. I don't know if I want to like say too much, but there's like a thing you can free or not free. I'll say that, and like they kind of make it out to be like this like moral choice, but it doesn't really. It doesn't matter.
Nobody gives a fuck about it.
Yeah, because it in the moment that it does feel like, oh, I need to free this thing or I need to kill it or whatever. It doesn't matter in the end, because like the game just kind of goes on into something that's even bigger and more important that is forgotten about, and like that thing that you freed or didn't free is forgotten about completely. So it's just kind of like, who cares? So even though the mechanic to free it is clunky, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and also the mechanic is the mechanic is so clunky, and the quote unquote payoff is so inconsequential. It sort of tries to guilt you into making you think that you've made a moral choice, but in reality, you're just making a practical choice because the gameplay mechanic isn't good. Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't say I really think my favorite part of Trespasser isn't even the significance of some of the plot developments as far as the series are concerned. My favorite thing about Trespasser is seeing the difference in your companions after the time has passed from the main. It is honestly my perfect post main campaign DLC, because everybody feels like they've moved on in a significant and believable way, and in many cases based on decisions that you made.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much all of them have grown in some way based on your decisions. Like, it's I really have very I little of negative things to say, because like most of the characters, they change in a way that like makes sense to the character. It's exactly what you said, and like they did such a good job that I can't even think of like, oh, I wish this happened for this character or this happened for that character. Like, they pretty much all went in directions that are like, yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to see of them, you know?
Right. Even in the one case, and we'll stay away from the spoilers, but even in the one case of the thing that happens in the middle, not the former companion that reveals something at the end, but the big twist in the middle that upsets some people. I know it's based on a subtle side quest from the main game, but I love that, because I honestly do feel that it is believable, and I love the fact that a side quest in the main campaign comes back all this time later in a DLC, and you're like, oh my god, yeah, that character really was that affected by that.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense. It's not like it came out of nowhere. Well, maybe it comes out of nowhere for you, but when you sit and think about it, you're like, oh, well, yeah, of course they did that. Of course. This makes sense. So, yeah. That's,
Trespasser. So across the three, the must-have ones for each game are got to be what? Witchhunt, Legacy, Trespasser. Would you agree?
Yep. And then you obviously heard our rants and whatever. I would say, like, out of all three games, I still think Inquisition has the most solid DLC for it. Like, I can't really say too many bad things about the Inquisition DLC. Like, maybe item packs, because they're item packs and whatever, but like, I really liked all three DLC. Like, I don't regret buying each one at like $15 or whatever. Like, I felt I got $15 worth of enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, so. I agree, because they had three solid hits that were all good, that were all unique in their own way. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Bioware has done that even with even in the Mass Effect series, that they've had three big ones that were all just like really stand out in that way. Yeah, fucking Inquisition, man.
I love Inquisition. I don't know why people don't like it. That's my favorite game.
I really don't either.
It's my favorite game.
In many ways, it's like Bioware doing everything, not everything right, but a lot of stuff right.
Yeah. I really think it's Bioware at its best, and I get some people are disappointed with that, but like, if you embrace Bioware as it currently is, rather than like, we gotta go back to KOTOR and Baldur's Gate, then like, it's great. It really there's a lot of good moments there. So I guess now that we've ranted, I feel like I have nothing else to add on DLC.
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah, I would say, I know some people are like, well, what about the prices and whatnot? Like, one reason I didn't want to cover price is because it depends where you live, depends on sales, and depends where you buy it. I think in general, though, it makes more sense to try to buy it in a bundle. Like, if you're going out there and trying to buy DLC now, even if you already have the main game, just go out and buy the DLC bundles. Because it's going to be cheaper in the long run, even if you have the main game. Because that's essentially what I did for all things except for Inquisition, because I was buying it as it came out.
Right. Yeah, and also too, it makes the episode less evergreen, right? It depends on when people listen to this, because people could listen to it in the future when that has finally changed. But we should say, as of the middle of May in the year 2019, EA still has an issue with not discounting DLCs.
They've been doing it more often. I've noticed that. They are still difficult to find, but every once in a while there will be a sale where you can get it discounted. But yeah. Well, all right, that's my rant on DLCs. Jordan, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think we might do Mass Effect later at some point. I'm not saying next time, but we will do one for Mass Effect as well.
I will say that I bought the rest of the Mass Effect DLCs. I have not actually played them yet, so I should maybe I should get on that quicker, and then we could do that episode. That way I can have something to say, because I really only played I didn't play any Mass Effect 1. I played, I think, the free ones from Mass Effect 2.
Okay.
And I played Citadel, and I had Javik on Mass Effect 3, and that's it. That's all I've done.
Okay. Yeah, Citadel's the big one, but yeah, maybe like Lair of the Shadow Broker and Arrival from 2.
Yeah, I might have to get on that. All right, so if people are asking where the DLC and Mass Effect episode is, point your complaints to me, because it's probably my fault.
Oh.
So, all right, guys, with that, Jordan, where can they find you?
They can find me at The Exalted March on YouTube, on Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And Caitie, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on, I almost said Instagram. I was like, I guess I have Instagram now. I kind of forgot about it. You can find me on YouTube at Ghildirthalen. You can find me on Reddit on Galenon. And with that, everyone, Darth Shalom.